live event training today, and we'll be starting shortly at 1 o'clock. So we look forward to kicking off. So if you have a need to get your cup of coffee, maybe step aside to take care of some personal business, we've got a couple of minutes to go and we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome again, everyone. This is Bonnie Jones from the Customer Success Management team. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be doing a live events hosting team workshop. And I'm from the productivity team. I'm a customer success manager. I've been working in federal for the last 3 years. And I'm here in partnership with several key colleagues. Shane, you want to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Hi, my name is Shane Jaspers, and I have been working for Microsoft for a little over 6 years, and I was working in the retail space in Arlington, Virginia. But since we have gone to remote operations, I have been helping the Impact Enterprise team with training our customers on how to use our various products and services, mostly with a focus on Teams. So I'll be here and I'll be answering your questions in the Q&A section. So please keep them coming. I love staying busy.
And Valerie?
Good morning. I'm the Business and Community Training Manager for our team in Hawaii. And much like Shane, I am from the retail space, and I'm now supporting our Impact Enterprise team. Bonnie and Shane, I'm your backup today, so anything you need, I'm here for you.
And then Abby Quinn.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yep, as Bonnie said, my name is Abby Quinn. I'm a customer success manager exclusively working with Microsoft Teams in GCC and all of our federal customers. I'm sure you guys are familiar with my voice as I have been on a lot of these, so I will be the backup to the backup to the backup, answering some questions and able to kind of hop on. Bonnie, if you need any clarification or if Shane wants to throw a question out there, we have a lot of voices today, so excited to have some interaction.
Yep. Look forward to everyone's support. So this is part of a continuing series that we've been doing that we started back in March, right? And so for the month of September, we'll be doing these every Tuesday, Thursday. So think Teams Tuesday, Teams Thursday. 1 o'clock at the same time, the same station, the same AKA link will continue to work for you throughout the course of the month. And what you see before you is the full schedule that you can expect to see for September. And it's a progressive series of conversations. We start with everything from fundamentals all the way through smart meetings, productivity, live events like we're doing today, and even some app integration. So it should help you, your users, and everyone on your teams get smart on Teams with minimal investment week over week. So we really encourage you to attend and to really dive into Teams so that you can help get the best utilization out of the tool going forward. So first, I want to start kind of with a baseline of Teams in general. In case you're new to Teams, usually not as much in this course of this conversation because live events is considered an advanced topic. It's not a one-on-one type conversation, but Teams is the hub for teamwork. It brings everything together in one strong lens, from your chat conversations, whether they be sidebar conversations of one-on-one with some teammates or one-to-few with some teammates, or intra-team conversations that really where people can all see the lens of that conversation and really learn from it going forward. That's a great space for when you want to share some messaging out to a broader space. And everyone needs to all be well aware of what's happening and have full transparency and can learn from each other. That's a great way to utilize those chat features. We're going to be talking about meetings today. This is one of the types of meetings that you can have going forward, and we'll go deeper into that in a second. And of course, there is great extensibility power within Microsoft Teams. Teams can pull in all types of other platforms and applications all into a single lens. So if you think of all the places that you have tabs, instead of having all those multiple tabs, if you could bring them into one lens and surface them from a given workspace, that's how Teams can help empower you. And it can also help you with automation and workflows of how things flow throughout the course of your day, whether it be Planner, or various types of tools that come forward. So it can really help you with workflows as well. So there's great extensibility in the power of Teams, and we're really going to dive deeply today into live events. We talked a little bit about this. I'll kind of skip through some of these basic capabilities. I think everyone knows, the OneNote Stream. Stream is really great for recording meetings, broadcasting out various types of videos, whether they be training, etc. Power BI and Forms, that's some of the extensibility that I was mentioning to you. The website tab, if you have an existing website today that you go to all the time, instead of bookmarking it, perhaps create a tab for it within Teams itself so that people can get to it quickly and easily. So there's lots of extensibility that happens within Teams itself. So next I want to talk about the meetings experience. So smart meetings are a little different than your traditional meeting because it gives you that really before, during, and after capability. Before the meeting, you can get ready by posting up your agenda early. You can set your historical context. You can really get people all baselined on what they need to bring into the meeting beforehand. And it can all be part of the conversational chat related to that team event and related to that meeting. Then, of course, during the meeting, you can share video, you can share content, you can turn on the conversational histories so that you can make sure that everyone's voice is heard. There's great power in that you can also turn on some closed captioning for those who are having some hearing impairments, and you want to have some ability to turn on those sorts of features, so it can really help you make sure everyone's voice is heard. And then afterwards, of course, for people who missed the meeting, they can go back through the recording itself. They can track the action items. You can catch up on some of the conversational tone. You can post additional follow-ups afterwards. So all in the same context of that meeting. So it really gives you a before, during, and after experience that is a little different than your typical type of meeting where you had to send multiple emails over and over again. It really gives you a real conversational tone that you can follow throughout. So next, I want to go into the two types of meetings. I referenced this a little bit earlier in our conversation. So there are meetings and there are events. Meetings are really one-to-one or one-to-many types of collaborations. They're capped at up to 250 attendees. There can be one-on-one or group video calls, a single meeting organizer, and anyone can share their content, right? So it really gives you an ability to have a quickly elevate to a meeting, right? If you want to join a meeting now or to have a scheduled meeting, etc. The key differentiator here is that limitation of up to 250 attendees. Events are your scale motion. They can scale up to easily to 10,000, right, just out of the box. And if you need to go to 100,000, if you work with us ahead of time, we can make that happen for you. So there are few to many broadcasts. For example, in this broadcast, there are the 5 of us that are on this production team that are really scaling out to everyone who's on the call. And the good opportunity here is that you can set it up. If you can imagine 10,000 people on a call where everyone's mic is open, etc., that's not the ideal experience. So the one key difference in an event is that you just control the way that people interact, right? So it's much more of a narrated conversation. It's broadcast style, really pushing out, as opposed to the open conversation where anyone can share, where anyone can come off mute, etc. So it really helps to keep the noise down. The event host and the designated presenters can all share their content. They can moderate the Q&A, open the dialogue, etc. So that's a key differentiating factor for events versus meetings. And what they all have in common is the ability to invite internal or external participants. That is dependent upon your agency's implementation. Some agencies are not permitting external access. So if you are not able to do that, that's likely an agency controlled item. And of course, you can all share video, on-demand, cloud recordings, all the typical types of things that you can do in our video meetings. So that is the commonality between the two modalities. So why live events? Why on-demand events? These are your meetings of the future, right? They are really how you can do your all hands of the future. They're ongoing collaborative experience, how you can really connect with people anywhere and anytime, because they're all still able to connect from any device, whether it be on their phone, your tablet, your laptop, your desktop. And real-time video conversations, etc. So it's still a very integrated experience. People use them from everything from smaller groups to really huge public broadcast environments where you're talking out to the public, for example. You're holding a conference, for example. Those are the types of experiences where you might want to do these scenarios. If you have something over 250 people, but you don't know how many people will attend, live events are a great way in which to address those sorts of scenarios. We talked a little bit about the scale motions. So as I said, it goes to 10,000 people out of the box, and we can extend to 100K with some pre-planning. You would work with your Microsoft CSM or your Microsoft account team in order to make that happen. The maximum duration of any live event is 4 hours, right? So you must plan for that, and that's from the time you press go. You can have up to 10 presenters on the panel and the production team at a time, and you can have a maximum of 15 concurrent events existing within each tenant. So one thing that we're trying to highlight here is some of the differentiating factors. So think of it in terms of a continuum, right? So the ad hoc collaborative meetings that you can schedule today, those are really, they're really low lift. You can just jump in on anyone. You can elevate a conversation to a meeting. You can plan a meeting, etc. Team events are really self-produced events. They can go everything from just an experience like this where I'm just sharing my video to a much more studio produced where we're adding videos and stream integration and various types of things, which much more you know, on the stage, recorded live sessions that are much more studio produced. It can follow that full spectrum. And similarly, the number of attendees and the frequency and the prep time that is required for each is a little different. So when you're going into these live events, you will need a little bit of extra time, right? They're more formally produced. They take a little bit of extra time to stand up, and we definitely recommend that you practice them ahead. There's obviously fewer of them, and then the studio produced, of course, for the conferences, your press releases, all those your hearings, all that sort of thing are all more on the upper end of the spectrum. We talked a little bit about the before, during, and after. So before the event, you want to definitely determine what type of meeting are you trying to do. Are you doing a live event? And that key decision tree is largely around the number of people, right? And whether or not you want people to interact in the course of your call. So if, for example, you had 200 people on a call, but you wanted to really have a more moderated conversation, then you still might use a live event. And if it's over 250 for sure. So then you can still understand the who's who. During, you need to understand who is on your production team and who's going to be playing what role, and we'll go through roles momentarily and what the flow is expected. Oftentimes we recommend that people work from a single deck, but you can also do it from multiple modalities as well. And one of the great features for live events is you're going to be able to share the recording and have all kind of measurement and reports that come after. For example, the Q&A report that comes after. Every question that's asked can come off in a report. You can get an attendee list, etc. So those are some great features that come from live events automatically that you can choose that really help with the experience. As far as what's required to get into live events, you have to enable live events at for the stream license, and you have to have it enabled in your tenant. So if for any reason you do not see a live event as one of the options, again, this is probably an agency specific thing that you need to talk to your administrators about and ask for it. Let's see, so let's talk through who's who in a live event. First and foremost is the organizer. The organizer actually schedules the event and designates who's going to be in the event. Abby's set up this one for us, and she scheduled me as a producer and some other folks as presenters. So really understanding the who's who is important. They ultimately have full control over the event. And some of these roles can also be serviced by the same person, but that is the first and foremost. Second is the producer. The producer determines what content is shared. For example, I'm sharing this conversation that you have before you. I sent it live. The team with Shane and Valerie and Abby are monitoring our Q&A, and we're also sharing via webcam, etc. I can turn my camera on and off. I can also determine how I want to share it on the screen. All those sorts of features are really in the producer's lens, which we'll go through in a bit. The presenter's experience is a little more streamlined in that they can just display their screen, come off mute, and speak to the attendees. They can also monitor Q&A, share the webcam, etc. One of the variances between a producer and a presenter, the key variance, is their ability to send the meeting live, the ability to end the meeting, and those are key important factors that differentiate the producer and presenter roles. And the view is also really different, which I'll show you in a bit. So really understanding who your producers are is important. We generally recommend you have at least 2 producers per event, just in case any one person has a problem. You always want to have a backup. And then the presenters themselves, you can have, as I said, up to 10 at one time. And if you have a larger event where you need more than 10 presenters, you can move them in and out, right? So if Abby dropped, then Gabrielle could come in, for example, to help you control that flow of how you manage to up to 10 presenters. And then, of course, the attendee. You're in a live event right now, and you're in the attendee view. So you're able to post your questions, view the published responses that come out from the production team. You can consume the recorded events later. And I know that this group does an awesome job with sharing all of our recordings out via Abby's YouTube channel. So that's a good place for you to go afterwards as well. So those are all features that are for you as an attendee. But you'll see that it feels very much like a regular meeting. The key differentiator is that you can't come off mute to ask your questions in the moderated chat. But I think most people have had that kind of experience before and are familiar. So let's talk about the key roles. So we talked about the organizer. They manage the live event, they create the permissions, invite all the members. So when Abby chose me, she defined me as the producer. And I literally did share this screen, send it live, started talking to you, etc. Those are all the rights that she gave me when she set me up with the producer role. These two people can easily be the same person and often are, but you must use the full Teams experience in order to be these roles, right? You cannot do this from your phone or from a web browser. This is a much more moderated type of experience. It's really best from a desktop where you use your webcam, etc., and to be planful of that and to practice that so that you're familiar going forward. And of course, we talked about the presenter. They can send their audio, moderate the Q&A, the Teams app, etc. And as you can see, all these folks can be the same role if needed. You could have one person do this. It's not ideal state. It's not a best practice, but it is definitely possible if you wanted to just put a live event out where you went one-to-many. It can absolutely be done. So in the attendee experience, it's mainly on demand. You can join from anywhere. That's one of the gifts of being able to be an attendee is you can come from any type of device. So those are the key differentiating actors that encompass in every live event, and knowing who's who is important. So really designating if you're going to have 2 key people as your producers and the other 8 be your presenters, say for example, an executive panel, and really defining who those people are. The producer may have a single deck, for example, that they're sharing out that everyone speaks to. And that way that the presenter can just focus on delivering their content as opposed to navigating the event itself. And then of course the IT admin, they're the ones who empower this functionality. They're in the background. Normally once they've set it up, they're good to go. It's not that they have to be involved in every single meeting, but they are our superheroes that are the key enablers of live events. So we always have to include them as well. So this is just a high level view of the steps to create a live event. So if you wanted to look at this information after, you can know kind of a checklist of what all you would need to do in order to be prepared. And it's all the topics that we'll go through during the course of the day. So I'm going to take a quick second before I delve in. Have any questions really surfaced that I need to highlight for now? I want to take a second to breathe, give it a pause for a second. Anything come in?
As of right now, no, you are good on the question front.
Okay, awesome. So the next generation of town halls and our live events. This is an example of what you see as the attendee experience. As you can see, the presenter is sharing their video. The Q&A is over to the right. You can see all the questions live, incoming. You can see new questions. You can ask a question here on the right. You can post it anonymously if you like. If you have, a more strategic question that you want to ask and you really don't want everyone to know who asked it, feel free to use that post as anonymous. That's a great way for leaders to actually get real candid feedback from people. And you will still have the power in what shows up to the field, but it still is a great way for that feedback loop to really understand what people are feeling out in the community. So this is a strong example of that. Now this view is the presenter's experience, and what you'll see is different straight from the beginning is you still see similar content is shared, but you can see all the actors that are in the conversation. So you can see the 3 people that are actually hosting this event. Someone has posted the welcome message out to the group. You can see a differentiated experience up here to the right so the question mark here is for all the Q&A. Then you can see the chat conversation, and that is the back office chat conversation. So if you need to coordinate between presenters to say, hey, Shane, you're up next. and, you know, to let him know that, oh, 2 minutes, you know, or we're running a little behind, we're going to punt on this content. All that sort of conversation can happen in the chat experience behind the scenes, and no one who's on the front side and the attendee experience will see that conversation. Also, from the people perspective, that's where you see the list of everyone who's been invited from a presenter's view of the meeting, and you can pull people in as needed. The other thing that you'll notice here is up in the upper left, you'll see that the collaboration best practices is the title of this event. The red indicates strongly that it is a live event. So it is actually ongoing at the moment, and similar to what you'll often see is a red box around it to let you know that it is in fact live. And you can see the over 3,000 attendees that are here actively attending this meeting. That's a snapshot in time. That's not your total count. And I can tell you how to get to your total count in a bit. But this shows you the number of people that are existing in your meeting as of that moment, which is a great indicator to know, okay, are we at a quorum to go ahead and get started? Are we having good attendance? All those sorts of things, that all shows in this view. And the good news is that a presenter could come in, and as I said, they can leave, and then other actors can come in additionally as well. So you can just leave by clicking this leave button. There's no risk to the event itself. It won't close. I will tell you that live events are a one and done type of experience. So the person that sends it live and ends the meeting, it cannot be recreated. It's not like a regular meeting that you just can jump in and out of. They are very planful. Now presenters can do that because they can come in and then they can leave without risk. But as a producer, you want to be careful to leave a meeting versus end a meeting. And we'll go to that next. So as you can see, this is the presenter's view, and it's very different. You similarly see the number of people that are impacted at the bottom, the people that are all into the meeting. You also see the content that is being shared. So right now, Babek is actually speaking and his video is on display and he's having a conversation with the team. The next thing that's teed up is this content of how we stack up. So as he speaks, we're ready to go. And his mic is open. You can see whose mics are open by the icons at below. And when I'm ready to share his content next, then I will click send live and it will replace his content. This is your share tray of how you share content, and it's similar to what you do normally within Teams of how you share. And you can also mute everyone on the panel. So, you know, it's a good best practice to really get started at the top to mute everyone, and then you as the presenter come off mute and speak, and then that's a great way to kind of segue into the event itself. Similar to what we saw in the presenter's view, you still see the name of the event, the attendees, and that it's live. And what you'll see is key here is this big red button. If you click this end, that actually ends the full live event. So that, as I said earlier, you would not be able to come back into the event. And that's differentiated from leave. Leave is where you can just leave the event. If I'm a producer, and you may have a couple of them, I could leave it for a moment and then come back later with no impact to the event at all. It's able to still continue to go on so that people can access it. So you would just leave. So that's the differentiator. But if you accidentally hit end, the meeting is over and you would have to create a net new live event in order to proceed, send out a net new link, etc. You can sometimes mask events with a bit.ly, you know, to make it a friendly URL, but that is a key differentiating factor. And just like what we had in the presenter's view, you can still, you know, see the content, you can see the Q&A, the chat conversation, who's involved. You can see all of that information still in the upper right, just like in the presenter's view. So it is different, and this is what you could expect to see from a producer's experience. Now this is a highlight of, I've already clicked into the Q&A section. So as you can see for new, these are all the new questions that have come in, right? That's how you would differentiate. So the good thing there is that it helps you keep on top of questions that come in. And you can choose whether or not you want to privately reply to someone's question or whether you want to publish it or dismiss it. So say, for example, you get a question that's been repeated several times, right? You may want to publish it the first time and then dismiss all the others. And they'll go over into this dismiss bucket. They'll still be captured in the Q&A report, but they won't continue to go out to everyone on the content thread. But what is there is the published version. So these are the dismissed conversations versus published. And of course, the new ones that are continuing to come in. So it just helps you stay on top of all the items that are shared out and how you want to move forward within those. The bottom is also how you make an announcement. If you just click make announcement, it will just make a broadcast message for everyone to see. So you can say a welcome, encourage people to ask their questions, any kind of public announcement. We're going on a break for 5 minutes and we'll be back. Any of that sort of content you can share that way. Let's see, so we talked about the published. So let's next go through a quick little demo. So from the organizer's perspective, you want to schedule a live event. So what you'll click is, if you notice in the, normally you just click new meeting, and that's probably how you create most events going forward. But if you click the drop down, you'll see live events is here. And live events are the type of event that you want to create for all of these, and you'll click through to that. And this is the experience that you'll get, where you would click the title of the event. The event location is always in meetings. You can schedule your time. You can find traditional times just like usual, your time zones, etc. And you start to invite your presenters. So in this case, Danielle's most likely started creating this, and she's listed as a producer because she's the organizer. And then you can move forward. So once you set all these parameters, you can click into next, and you can add additional people. So like she's adding Babek as a presenter, and you can tab down to define his role. Do you want him as a presenter or a producer? And that is an important step to make, because only producers, as I said, can start and stop events. So in this case, right now, only Danielle could start and stop the event. If she wanted to make Babek a producer, she would click this down arrow to enable her to do so. So the next item is, what type of event do you want to have? Do you want to have it only to specific people, say within your team? Say my existing working group team are the only people I want to attend this live event. Maybe it's a division. I only want this division to be able to attend. You would specify that with people in groups. Use a group that you would prefer to use, and then to move forward. You can also do org-wide, that is everyone within your given agency. A sign-in will be required in order to proceed in that way, but it does keep it as a within the toll gates of within the agency itself. And that's a way that a lot of agencies prefer to move, is just to do an org-wide setting. And then you can also do a public setting, and that's the type of setting that I have set for you today. So in order for someone outside of Microsoft to join my event, I have set this up as public. No sign-in is required. You can join under your name or anonymously, but anyone with that link for that event will be able to join it. It is a delineating factor that you have to make a concrete decision on what you're okay sharing, and treat that accordingly. So if you're doing some sort of press release, for example, that would be how you would do that. You would make it a public event where members of the press could come. And then, of course, you treat the content that is delivered accordingly. You can also do a quick start where webcams, etc. are on. That's what I have on today. So I'm just using an existing webcam to record the event. You can also go through some different types of modalities to deliver your screens, etc. So with the quick start, you can attend what type of engagement you want. Do you want the recording to be available to everyone, all of the attendees, or only the people in the event group? Captions really enable you to do translation within the event. You can translate from English to up to 6 languages, and you define what those are up front. So where you'll see in the bottom right, you'll see a closed caption icon that you can click, and that's how you could translate up into different languages. So that's a great extensibility feature, accessibility feature, where people can translate into their native tongue to make it more so where everyone can understand the engagement a little better. You can also do an attendee engagement report that basically shows you who's attended your event, so you can see the number of people that came, where they came from, etc. So if you were trying to do a training, for example, that you wanted to require folks to complete, that would be a good way in which to track that. And of course, the Q&A that I've mentioned a couple of times during the course of this conversation, you could capture every question that came in. And the great utilization for that is when you're building out FAQs, getting sentiment feedbacks, all that sort of thing. If you wanted to capture those over that given event or even over a series of events, you can share that out. And then you click to schedule your event. If you do not turn any of these on, then of course they're all able to be turned off. These reports will all be available to you after the event is over. They are not available during the event. Once the event closes, that's when all these artifacts are produced. Then you click the schedule of the actual event itself, and it will pop up with this indication, and you'll see this Get Attendee link. So when you create a live event, you're going to have the producers meeting, and then the one that's open to the public. Generally, we share out the producer event where people join 30 minutes ahead. But this attendee link, that is what you share out to the public. You want to be careful here. Please do not share the producer's view, because what you'll do is you'll invite all these people into your meeting accidentally. But you share this link here as part of your invitation. So you can just hover over it, copy the link, and when you create your event for your public space, you know, everyone please attend this Friday's all hands meeting with Rhonda, and share out that link, and you're done. And that's how people will join your actual event. Some people do masking like you've done today. So, you know, we've done it with an AKA link, which you enabled. You can do that with various services like Bitly, etc. As an example. So you could make it a more user-friendly link that's more memorable, or you can just leave it as is. And that's at your discretion how you wanted to move forward on that. Where's my cursor? There she is. So click there, see it's copied to the clipboard, and then you can share it out more broadly. And as you can see, this invite was set up where they can watch the live event, and they just did a rebranding of that actual image, of that actual link, so that people could go ahead and join out. So next up, well, first off, any other questions that have come in? Looks like maybe one or two.
It looks like we were able to answer all of the questions, but if at some point, would you be able to show us where you can download the attendee list? That was one of the questions we had. Yep,
it's going to come up in part of the artifacts when we get a little further down, but absolutely.
Thank you.
So producer and presenters joining. So what you'll see differently is you'll see this sales monthly update, and one of the things that you'll usually see delineated is there's going to be a slightly different icon at the bottom right that shows you that it's a live event. It actually looks like a video recording. And when you click in, this is what you'll see as a producer. It's similar to when we created the event. And you just click, and you can send artifacts ahead of time. You can send an agenda. You can send a link. You know, just like with any regular meeting, you can still send items ahead of the meeting. You can also have chat around the meeting ahead of time. And, you know, if you need to go back to the link at a later time, the attendee link, you can do that. But normally you would just, like, for example, when I joined today, I just came into the event and then I clicked join. It does give you time to set up your camera and your mic as usual before you enter the event. And of course you can turn it on while you're there. It just depends on if the event is actually has already started or not. If you're in the pre-join phase, you know, you can probably go in hot. If it's if the event is already started, and I was turning it in the off position before you went ahead and joined. And then that takes you straight into this producer's view. And as you can see, this is an empty, nothing's been done yet, right? This is when you first join. In this case, Abby and Rob and Daniela and I were all in this conversation. And you see a differentiate, it's pre-live, so it has not been sent live yet. No one's even joined yet. It's probably in that 30-minute period that we recommend you come in before you join. And where you can go ahead and get ready to get started. It also lets you know that you're muted, or whether or not people can hear you, etc. So there's a nice banner that comes up when you are muted. So in case you forgot, because you know sometimes we do that, we tend to be speaking and we're on mute the whole time, and it will remind you to unmute yourself so that you can be heard. Similarly, as I said before, you can set your broadcast message out, whether or not things are going to when things are going to get started shortly, all that sort of conversation. And that's all up in the comment section as well. This is part of the back office conversation. So she's actually tagged, I bet, because must be running a little late. So they're actually trying to tap him on the shoulder a little bit. Can we pull you into this conversation so we can go ahead and get going? As a best practice, we try to be there good, 10 minutes before, just to make sure everything is up and ready to go, and that we're sending live by 5 minutes ahead of time. These are just some best practices that you can get a rhythm to make sure that the event is smooth beforehand. So next you'll share out your content, and in this case you decide what you want to share and to move forward with so that you can start to share that out. And you'll see we've teed up this content is ready to go. And then we can choose what view we want to do. And the view that you're in today is the standard view where it's just the full screen of what the content is. You can also do a side-by-side where you can see someone speaking as well as the actual content itself. And that's a great way to highlight a speaker without losing focus on the content too. The content is always the main focus. So you have to choose which modality you'd like to display in. Most people do the actual full screen mode most often, but you do have that option available to you. And then of course you can send that item live. And you do need to click start to go live to all the attendees, and it'll confirm, are you sure you want to start? Because as I mentioned, this is a one and done kind of scenario, so you don't want to accidentally start something, a few minutes ahead by mistake and have a lot of dead air space. So it will give you an opportunity to confirm. And then you are live, and you see the differentiator here is that this box turns red and your end turns red, and this icon. So these are all motions that help you know, oh yes, we are live, we are really sharing out to the world. Let's come off mute, start to speak, and share out our content appropriately. So any questions around how we join as a producer?
Nope, no other questions right now.
Okay, and that is going to be the same type of experience pretty much for a presenter. The variance would be that you wouldn't see that full experience, but you'll still just be able to click into that same meeting invitation in the same way. So now the attendees. So what's different for them? They just see that same icon at the bottom. They still click in to their meeting, and they click the link that you shared as the attendee link in order to attend, and then they just see the event. It doesn't really feel like a dramatically different experience for them from the join experience. In this example, you can see the closed captioning that I was mentioning to you earlier. So if someone did want to do translation, that's how they would enable it. If a meeting was not yet live, it'll tell you that the meeting hasn't yet started. It's a banner page that you'll get, but once it is live, you'll see the live icon. And there is a scroller here. So if, for example, you wanted to scroll back a few seconds and wait, I'm sorry, I missed what he said, I want to hear that again. just like on your home video streaming, right? You can scroll back a bit and let it play forward, or you could catch up all the way back up to live, etc. So you do have that power while you're actually in the live event to rewind, move forward, those sorts of things. You can also ask a question by clicking the question box up above, and you can, as I said, post your question, ask it anonymously, etc. The person that responds back to you, like you've posted your question and it'll tell you it's pending approval. Once the moderator has approved, then it will switch over into the common area for where all published questions live, and you'll see that post up differently. We talked about now at the end of the event, if you wanted to go into closing out the session, you would click end, and then you would get the meeting resources, right? And so after the meeting, when you go back into that same invite of when you were joining the live event, you will see all these various resources that are available to you. You can download the recording, you can download the Q&A report or the attendee engagement report, and you can pull a transcript as well. So that's how you would be able to see all the various elements that happened after the meeting. And that's part of what you set up at the front end of what did you want to be able to get after. So I hope that answered the person's question from earlier. And this is part of where I said your meeting experience is a continuum. This is what is considered a post-meeting experience, right? How can I continue to evolve and learn from what happened during the course of the meeting? Hive Insights also provides you like a high-level count, that sort of thing, of just who attended your meeting, and it's available to you as well. But if you download these items, then this is an example that I pulled of, I pulled down a recording, I pulled it down twice by mistake, a Q&A report, an attendee report of what you would expect to see, how they come down to your files, and then you can just open those and a transcript. So and this transcript is editable, and you would be able to move forward on that. So any questions, actually let me back up, any questions back about any of the post-meeting reports and metrics? I know that we had a question around that earlier. Any other net new questions?
Yeah, the question about attendee report was just, is there a way to figure out who attended and at what times they attended?
Yes, it does. I don't have an example of actually what that detail shows, but it does show who attended, what time they came in, what time they left. And even in fact, if they go in and out, then you'll get duplicate entries for the same person and you'd be able to see that. So if I joined for a few minutes, then I dropped. So you are able to get to that level of detail by person. Any more questions around that? I'll give it a second because I know one thing that's also about a live event is it's on a little bit of a delay. So it's about a 15 to 20-second delay. So I may make a statement and it may take a moment for the audience to actually hear it and then loop back. So when you pace yourself, keep that in mind to give people an opportunity to do that feedback loop before you move on to next topics. So did any other questions come up about the post-meeting metrics?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Now, if you also really wanted to go through really amplifying how you deliver your event, you can do some production options with live events. As I said, this is just a regular webcam. It's out of the box production. I can use the cam that's on my laptop. I can do a cam that's external, that's a plug-in through a USB. So those are quick ways in which you can do just out of the box production without any real extra lift. But you can also do this whole studio grade level where you attach professional level cameras, the audio, the external production. That's, you know, your huge all hands, your marquee events, all those types of experiences. Those are able to be supported as well if you want that type of lens to be able to produce your event and you wanted to stream it out to the world through a live event. You know, I know that some government agencies are in fact doing those types of broadcast events for their various public offerings, etc. So In fact, like when we did Ready, that's how we did some studio grade high profile events through this type of modality. So I hope that that helps. We did talk about the transcription. It's editable, it's searchable. You can go back to the recording and find your place in the recordings, etc. And you can reach a large group of people. I think we can skip through. We can probably skip through a bit of this architecture. Let's talk through best practices. So as I said, one of the big things is practice. Take a little bit of time, because that back office experience, especially if you're a producer, presenter, and you've never been in it before, you just might want to go, you want to spend a little bit of time ahead of time to go through that. Make sure you understand what the flow is, who's going to speak when, and what the indicator is for advancing through slides, how you want to share. Do you want to share video or not? Do you want to have a side-by-side setup? Those are all the types of decisions that you want to make before you actually host your event. Because it is a production style and it has a capacity to hit so many people, you want to take the extra time to make sure that it goes across flawlessly. So please do practice. You also want to partner, have more than one person in the event group. It's really just the best practice in case you just never know. On the day of what happens with individuals, people, you want to make sure that it's presented well. You can have, somebody inside the meeting, somebody outside the meeting, giving you an attendee experience of how it really is coming across. You can check it on your phone just to make sure that things are coming across the way that you like. We talked about creating a custom link. You can use Bitly, for example, to modify your attendee link. And in the event of something like catastrophic happening, somebody's laptop fully crashed or whatever, you can redirect to the net new event seamlessly with no one ever being the wiser. And in fact, it's how we leverage that type of tool to support these events as an ongoing series. That's how you keep the same AKA link every time, and we've been using that same URL for a good while now, and we will continue to use it going forward. That's what enables us to do that. So we just redirect on the back end the actual link that it's actually going to. Avoid sharing that actual live event meeting production team link. Only producers and presenters should have access to the back office. Just be careful upon that. We talked a couple of times about arriving early, 30 minutes ahead. Once you're really in the rhythm and you know how things are going, you can maybe get there 15 minutes ahead of time, but it's still just a best practice just to turn it on 30 minutes ahead, make sure you're good to go, then go get your coffee, maybe take a restroom break and come back and get settled and get ready to go. Turn on your audio a few minutes early, etc. And we talked about planning the flow. So those are some of your best practices: assigning the roles, staying connected through that back office experience. I was on a live event last week, for example, that was an all hands that started trending behind and called audibles during the course of that conversation of, Shane, I need you to cut 2 minutes off your presentation because we're running a little bit behind. Valerie, we need to punch you to next week because, we're running a little long. We're actually going to move something up sooner in the deck instead. You can make those kind of audible communications. And then, of course, there's accessibility. Consider all abilities when you're doing your large scale meetings. That language piece is a key indicator. It's a great place to really extend your accessibility out to a large type of people, as well as turning on your closed captioning. Those things in and of themselves really help to extend your accessibility reach. And if people are really unfamiliar with how they can also increase the font size, they can do Control+, Control-, which are typical Windows types of functions to help increase or decrease the font size so people can see. I will say the production view, I generally use 2 monitors in which to do that, so that there's one that has the production view to my lower left, and then on the big screen is where I have my talking deck that I can walk to. If you don't, you can still do it from one screen, but it is a smaller set of real estate in which to see. So for those who are visually impaired like me, you may want to have a setup similar to that. So that's it for me for live events. Any open questions? I'm willing to take.
Right now, we don't have any new questions, but yeah, we're going to stay here and keep it open. And if anybody has any other questions, please feel free to ask. I am also going to drop a survey link in the announcements. Anybody who was here, please, if you do not mind filling out that survey, we do love the feedback here at Microsoft.
Good stuff. So we'll stay around for a little bit. If you do have questions, feel free to ask. We're glad to help. I hope it's been a good use of your time. And it's, again, as we said at the top of the meeting, these do continue every Tuesday and Thursday throughout. We know we published a schedule throughout the end of September. I believe Thursday's session is on fundamentals. So if you have folks that are just coming up to speed on Microsoft Teams, that's a great place to send them to really get their foundation going and get an understanding of what Teams can do. So we hope it continues to help you support you and your users so they can find something easy to snap to without a whole lot of extra lift on your agency side and to get some good learnings in. So we'll just hang out for a little bit in case you do have questions, feel free. But we use live events all the time to host all kinds of events, whether they be all hands. And in fact, I'm doing one with, there's a mentorship group that we have going on with some girls who code. We're going to be hosting a live event for them. That's going to go out to about 300 girls. So they can be used for community events. They can be used for your all hands. Training is a great vehicle for them, just like this one. So we hope you continue to use. So we'll give it another couple of minutes and then we'll give you your time back and thank you for joining us. Feel free to continue to reach out, engage your CSMs. Your CSMs are really your key partners to help you really learn the technology, help you drive your adoption motions of how you can use it, help you with a lot of your use cases. If you have a use case that you're trying to figure out how can I use Teams to support this, please surface that with your account team so that we can help support you, because we're really trying to get to the real mission work. Teams is really about supporting you in mission work. It's not just the technology, it's how we want to help you make your life a little easier in terms of utilization. You'll find it often reduces your email time. It helps you get some of your, if you can get an hour of your life back every day by utilizing Teams through that single lens that we talked about earlier in the call, everyone can use more time, right? It's the one thing that none of us can ever get back. It's our most valuable asset that we have in life. So we want to give you your time back as well. So with that said, we'll say thank you for joining. Feel free to continue to reach out if you have questions, concerns, and have an amazing day.
Thank you, Bonnie, for that presentation, and thank you everyone for being here today. Have a wonderful week.